So, we're here today to speak about this epic trek to Kilimanjaro. And we've got a team of 4 of our champions together, starting with Bilal.
Starting with Yasser, who's the first champion.
Yeah, exactly.
Number 2
Team lead
is Bilal.
Number 3 is Shaban or Hafiz Shaban.
And number 4 is Z.
Otherwise known as Zishan. So, we are, inshallah, in a week's time, next Tuesday, in fact, going to be flying out to head to Tanzania in Africa to climb Kilimanjaro. And we're climbing the mountain to support a local charity which is very dear to all of us sitting here. And one that many of the people listening may be familiar with, named Friends of Bright Eyes. Just to give you a basic background of what Friends of Bright Eyes is. Friends of Bright Eyes, as you guys know, is a charity that supports children with disabilities and has been doing so for 30 years, believe it or not. It's 30 years this year. It's a 30-year anniversary, and we're going to have a little bit more about that slightly later in the year, post the Kilimanjaro trek. But the charity itself provides after-school, weekend and holiday activities for children with disabilities. And the purpose of the trek is to try and support the charity to establish its very own disability centre in Luton. And we'll hopefully, inshallah, today to be talking about all of these points in a bit more detail and getting everyone's take on, why each one of these areas is important to us. So to begin with, guys, so Kilimanjaro, what does it mean? I remember somebody had a little translation that they came up with. Anybody? Kilimanjaro. Where does the name come from?
I don't know.
Anybody know?
You read something.
I read it somewhere. I can't remember now, actually. But
so, from what I remember, Njaro, if I'm saying it right, Njaro means white, or refers to the snow on the mountain. And I think that's in Swahili. We don't have our brother Rahim here, mashallah, who's the fluent Swahili speaker. He's been trying to teach us. We haven't quite got there yet, but Njaro apparently means that, and the Kili part, I suppose, means the mountain. So it means white mountain, apparently, because obviously, being in Africa, there's not many snow-capped mountains.
Yeah, absolutely.
And given the fact, I believe, from what I understand, it's permanently snow-capped in it throughout the year because of the height of it. So, So a little fact, I suppose, about the name. 5,895 meters high, guys.
Do you know, I was shocked, right? Do you know when Aleem shared that picture in the group?
Yeah, breaking down the different areas of the mountain.
God,
Yeah.
man,
Wow.
you go through like 5 different terrains. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's completely different climate zones, isn't it? As you get higher in the mountain, which is mad when you think about it. You start in
Civilization, as they say.
Civilization, which is actually, remember, it's like sub-Saharan Africa. The Sahara Desert isn't far from Kenya, Tanzania, and they can experience really extreme heat during the year.
Then you go into the tropics, like the rainforest.
Rainforest type.
Watch out for the snakes.
Yeah, watch out for the snakes and the spiders and the rain.
I hope
that
your
comes
mum's
with
not
it.
listening to this.
Your mum, yeah.
Yeah, you said what Kilimanjaro means. To my mum, it's a death trap. She's not having none of it.
Yeah, I can imagine. But yeah, so then we're talking about the tallest mountain in Africa. Now, guys, Africa's not a small place, you know what I mean? Largest continent. It's absolutely, freestanding as well. That's the amazing thing about it. So it stands there, magnificent, on its own.
What was that fact you said earlier, Yasser? You said something like, you're closest, at the summit of Kilimanjaro, you are closer to the summit of Everest than you are to the summit of Ben Nevis.
Yeah, it's quite mind-blowing, isn't it?
yeah,
Wow.
because
I hope my mum isn't listening to this.
So, obviously, Ben Nevis being the highest mountain in the UK, just under 1,400 meters, I remember. But when you're at the summit of Kilimanjaro, you're actually closer to the summit of Everest, the highest mountain in the world,
so
which is mad.
You're only 2,800 meters away,
That's
approximately,
right.
2,900 meters away from the summit of Everest at 6,000.
That's
Wow,
crazy.
Yeah,
At
wow.
6,000, yeah.
It's crazy.
Whereas at 6,000 minus 1,400.
What's the summit? What's the summit of K2?
It's similar. They're all 8,600.
It's 8,600 or something like
Ish,
that.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
But
think
you-
Everest is 8,800.
Yeah. But you know what? The funny thing is, I didn't mention any of these facts, or not too many of them, when we were signing you guys up, innit?
Yeah, but that I did.
You know, I'll keep this one in the back pocket.
I
until
did
later.
Yorkshire 3 Peaks, it'll be fine. Come on. Minor.
But yeah, you know, so how do you guys feel about that? Look, you know, when we say tallest mountain in Africa, but how does that actually make you feel thinking about it? You know, you're going to be standing, inshallah, we're all going to be standing at the summit of Kilimanjaro and be higher than anybody else in that entire continent.
Exciting.
It's definitely starting to sink in
Adrenaline.
now. Now that we're what, less than a week away from
Yeah.
taking
Yeah.
flight. We're flying out on the
You
31st,
You know,
right?
I said this the
And
other day.
I've got all my stuff out, ready to pack my bag, and I'm going through my gear. And you need specialist gear for this, right? So you're looking at your jackets and all of your thermal layers and stuff, and I'm thinking to myself, oh God, what have I signed up for?
No turning
know,
back now, mate.
the thing is, right, I've been so obsessed with this over the last couple of months. I said this on the radio in the morning as well. I've been so obsessed with it that I almost forgot about Kili. Like, because I've been so obsessed with the centre's got to open, the centre's got to open, the centre's got to open, raise money, raise money, raise money. I almost forgot.
Yeah.
And it's only when I walked in here today and I'm looking at, we were having the pre-podcast chat. I was, oh my God, I've got Kili to do next week. So it's huge. Hafiz, you're an experienced mountaineer.
An experienced
Don't put him on the spot. Sorry.
Exactly, man. No, I mean, wow. It's a combination of feelings and emotions, isn't it? There's excitement,
Yeah.
right? And then the closer you get to the time, there's a bit of a fear factor, right? There's some, for some people there can be a bit of an anxiety to as you become closer to the fact that you're gonna, be embarking upon this mammoth of a task of a journey, right?
That's right.
So there's all those elements to it, but I think you just take it in your stride. It's exciting, and I think you should enjoy it. The whole idea is to actually enjoy it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And no one's forcing you, pushing you. You do as much as you can, and there's certain elements that are beyond our control. And if for any reason that those elements kick in, then we take a checkpoint.
That's right.
Pole pole, as they say.
That's it.
Or in
Pole.
Punjabi, they say hole hole.
Yes.
Really? Okay. One other fact I might have neglected to mention before, guys. Yeah, you do know it's a volcano, right?
A dormant volcano. Yeah.
Yeah.
That could erupt at any time.
As dormant as volcanoes, come. I think 2.7 million years ago. Yes, I have. It's probably due. It's probably due an eruption.
There's that mad, people have that mad, like some, what they call them, conspiracy theorists, have this thing that the world runs in cycles, yeah? And every, God knows how many million years, it repeats itself. So, I don't know, man. It's scary, isn't it?
Well,
Are we walking through the crater? Because I've seen some YouTube
yeah,
videos.
we
So
got
the
to
summit, to get to the actual peak, the actual highest point, which is Uhuru Peak, we're gonna embark on the summit night towards a part of the peaks. There's different peaks, higher points, and one of them called Stella Point, as far as I can remember. And then from there, that's gonna take us through the crater and across
crater, bro.
through to
Yeah.
the
'Cause
highest
I've
point.
seen some.
Really exciting stuff.
I'm not scared. I'm genuinely excited.
Yeah.
I think the guys have been training really hard. I mean, based upon my experiences from the K2, right, and that for me has been my threshold. I've seen that the guys have been training really, really hard, so I think they've done all the right things, mashallah. And I think the team are ready for it, inshallah. But I mean, like I said, there are obviously we can't train for the altitude. I think that's the biggest challenge, is the altitude.
But how did you manage
how
it?
your body's going to
How did you manage it in K2? What was it that when you did K2? Because this is quite interesting, right? Like, everyone talks about the altitude. Everyone said there's nothing you can do about it. But surely there must be some kind of preparation or something that you can do to try and at least prepare your body or your mind for it? What do you do?
No, mind you can prepare. I mean, I think the way we've been preparing for Kilimanjaro, right? You know, you're putting yourself through a very intensive form of training. You know, you're stretching your stamina, your perseverance, your intensity, and that's all about really working up that heart, right? And your heart rate, right? And so we're all doing that in our training, and that's all good because you're going to need that, because when you're going on those inclines and declines, I mean, it's like an 8-hour, 9-hour inclines and declines. I mean, imagine that, right? Constantly for 14 days.
Climbing
that's
Ben
K2.
Nevis a day.
Yeah, that's K2, right? Yeah, exactly, right. So I mean, you know, Kili's going to be like that, but on for 7 days, right? So it is that intensity, and that's what we're training for. But we're training at sea level, whereas when you go out to Kili, then immediately you're at 2,000 and then 2,000 plus.
So how do you know? Like, what do you experience or what do you feel?
It's the breathing. Your breathing is obviously a lot more difficult, right? So your heart is working a lot harder, right? So imagine that when you're running, you know, we're sitting down now having a conversation, but try having this conversation whilst we're running.
That's right.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because you're running, so your heart's already pumping, you know, blood through your system, and it's already trying to cope with your running, and then on top of that, you're trying to have a conversation, right? So it's very similar, right? So when you're climbing up, you're trying to climb higher and higher, and at the same time, the available oxygen is lower.
It's
and
lower
lower,
and lower, yeah.
and therefore
yeah.
your body is working harder and harder to compensate for that. And the amazing thing is that subhanAllah, the body does compensate eventually, but it just takes time to adjust, and some people react inversely to those circumstances.
Yeah, I think the key thing with that is, you know, we talk about obviously with what Officer did over the 18-day period, wasn't it? I mean, it's mad, isn't it? And I think what height did you start at actually on K2? What height did you guys start?
It's the same. I mean, when you actually fly into Skardu from Islamabad,
so what height is that?
So you fly, you start at 2,000.
Okay,
2000.
so that's the thing. I think because you're starting at 2,000, and then obviously it's that gradual sort of steady incline. Your body has longer to acclimatize to the lack of oxygen. But with the Kilimanjaro, you know, we're gonna go from essentially zero,
sea level.
You know, sea level.
So we fly into Kilimanjaro.
Yeah,
and when we fly into Kilimanjaro, it's sea level.
that's right.
But even sea level, I mean, we need to check. I doubt it's just zero.
Yeah, it's not zero.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like any landmass, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. There'll be something that we're starting at.
But then going from there, and the starting point being essentially, you know, roughly around zero, let's just say wherever it might be, and then going through those phases of gradual incline over 1,000 meters a day, essentially.
Yeah.
In a short period of time, over, you know, the 6 to 7 day period, that's where I think the biggest challenge lies, and that's where the oxygen levels become a bit difficult. But, you know, I have to say, I think the one thing, obviously I haven't spoken to Officer, you know, 6 days, you know, for us guys, I suppose, it's a big deal in it, because we've done, you know, Z has completed the national peaks, the national 3 peaks, mashallah, 24 hours, which is, you know, mad. Yeah, I still can't get my head around what happened.
Hats off to Z for that, man.
100%. 100%. And then obviously we did the Yorkshire 3 peaks, which was 12 hours. But you know, 12 hours, that was hard. I mean, really hard. But 12 hours is 12 hours. And it's like, you know what, I'm one of them dudes that, okay, I can put myself through it, you know, for 12 hours. But then it's like, okay, you know, then you need some type of, you know, sort of relief from it. Whereas 18 days, man, you know, grueling, day after day after day, bro.
Right?
You know what I mean?
Imagine those Yorkshire 3 peaks, 11 hours, multiplied by 7.
Yeah.
No, I get it.
That's Kili. That's Kili for you.
Yeah.
Multiply that by 7 now.
Yeah.
Right. Every day you have to get up and do that again, and then you have to do it up and again. Right, and it's tough, but hey, let's be positive. I think the guys are very resilient. I think the guys are very upbeat. I think the guys are very excited, and it's going to be a walk in the park.
The motivation amongst the group that we have, the collective, is amazing. I mean, I know a couple of times they raised the point that I'm the youngest in the group. I am.
You know, I am.
You or me?
We are.
There's a few days between us. There's a few days between us. But the levels, and it's not just training, not physically finding the time to go into the gym and really push yourself for an hour and a half. People are training twice a day, and they're jogging for like 2 hours. They're putting in serious steps and serious mileages. Like you said, getting your heart rate to a certain level and then continuing to keep it there. And that's going to keep going. And I think people have put in some serious work and dedication into this.
Yeah. You know what?
Now we're getting closer to it. How has your training changed?
So this week, as we were just alluding to a bit earlier, you know, before we started this podcast, that we need to start tapering down now. We've had a conversation. We've had a couple of meetings last year, and we had a meeting back in November, I believe it was. When after we'd all booked our tickets, and we had the main group together at that point, and we talked a little bit about the training and what that's going to entail. And we're at that stage now, trying to taper down. So hopefully, most of us have got to where we need to be physically, really, and we need to now just prepare ourselves in terms of relaxing our bodies, relaxing our minds, and just essentially storing all that energy for what's to come. But on that, I think it's interesting, to speak a little bit about the sacrifices, and we just mentioned a little bit about the physical sacrifices. But actually, there's so much to this, innit? This isn't a matter of okay, we're just jumping on a plane next week on Tuesday and off we go to Kili. And it's been a big lead up, and there's been a lot that everybody's had to put on the line. And I know, personally, you're talking about the gym and going and spending time training. I personally, prior to the Yorkshire Three Peaks and us getting to sort of ready for that, hadn't spent a huge amount of time looking after my health as such. Alhamdulillah, I had some regular forms of exercise, but not to this level and this intensity. And so there's been a lot of sacrifices people have had to make. So I mean, any of you guys want to touch on anything in particular in terms of the kind of sacrifices you've had to make in terms of time, family, physically, what it's done for you or done to you?
I think you should start. Because his is probably the most significant in my eyes.
Wow, come on. Let us hear this.
Pressure's on now, hey.
What's he referring to, Billy?
I think everyone's sort of done their bit, but you got to sort of break it down into what you need in order to reach the summit, because we're going to do this, we're going to go on this journey, and if we reach the summit, we're going to get closer to our target of getting this centre open, right? So you've got your muscle, you've got to remember your water intake, and then your food, right? I'm not much of a gym person. Mentally, I don't like walking into a gym and just standing on a treadmill and jogging, and going on the stepper and stuff. I like to be outdoors, but it's so difficult to try and find the time and manage and stuff, because personally, I work 2 jobs. I was blessed with a newborn at home.
How long ago, Z?
7 weeks. 7 weeks.
Under pressure now.
So I know it's quite difficult right now to find that time.
And there was another big moment this week, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was in fact. So
this is a bit private, but I know him too well, so I can expose him on
all the positive.
I know him too well. So go on, Z.
Yeah. So as well as I want to be at home and constantly around my baby. I have to try and find time to manage work, because I'll be taking time off work. I'll be closing my business whilst I'm away. I'll be away from my kid for the first time, essentially. And
it's big.
There was lots of little things that I needed to get over the line, and alhamdulillah, another thing that we got over the line was I got keys to my house. My first house. So there was lots of things that were going on all around the same time, and it was a case of just trying to stay focused on my preparations, really. So I really pushed myself the last 2 months, and as now we're getting closer, so essentially by next week we're gone. I wanted to just give my body that rest. So a couple of days ago, I had hijama done, wet cupping specifically. And it just released a lot of pressure off of my back and my legs, because essentially you need that stamina in your legs, right? And I've been doing lots of stretching work now. I think historically, Asians are not really big on stretching. When we go to play football, cricket, whatever, we're straight into it, out the car, and straight
not,
in.
0 to 100 miles an hour.
And as you get older, you realise it gives you such a big advantage, especially with endurance, and that's the main thing we're going to need for this.
Yeah.
So I've just been sort of stretching and tapering back.
You know what it sounds like, innit? When you sitting there start saying things like, as you get older, while sitting around.
Our elders.
When you've got Bazurg on the table.
Listen, mate, you see his metabolic age, wherever it was. Exactly, bro.
Amazing.
Hey, but yeah, look, guys, a lot of sacrifices, and I think that obviously that really puts it into perspective. And I don't know. I feel like obviously because I've had a few inquiries from people, or individuals who are taking part. I've had inquiries, it's about making it, quite clear that this isn't a case of us just going out there for a jolly. Obviously, we've got a motivation, and there is that level of commitment to that particular cause that's making individuals like Z take that time out. I mean, 7-week-old newborn first as well, mashallah, so
that's cool.
girl as well, man, and I know what that's like, man. Obviously
we'll have to look after him, Bilal. Man.
Oh yes,
Inshallah,
definitely.
inshallah.
Yeah,
He's gonna be emotional.
You'll be our baby, inshallah.
that's right.
I'm very fortunate. The missus is amazing. She's been amazing. She's sort of,
Big shout
she's
out
like,
to
you
the family,
concentrate.
Big shout out to Pavi.
Yeah. Listen, you know what? I think shout out to all the families, because you know what?
It's true.
We
Massive
were
shout-out.
just talking about mums.
to the mothers, man. To
Yeah.
Billy's mom.
Yeah, that's right.
His mom.
Giving,
Big shout out.
not really given permission as such.
Support, bro.
Few
For the
girl have
support,
come your way, but it's to be expected. But I think definitely. I think it's a
That
word.
language is not for this podcast.
Yeah.
Which Asian mother is going to say, Master Putra, ko to gonna para apne?"
Yeah, no problem. Go ahead. Yeah, take a couple of Pranti
Yeah,
with you. You know what I mean?
exactly.
But on that point, I just being a father of two disabled children myself, I can tell you, firsthand, there is literally no way, no how, this would happen for me personally, without the support of my family, and primarily, my wife. There's a lot that goes into us, day to day, just getting through the day, basically, having to try and cope with all of the demands of caring and supporting our children. But it's a huge deal. And I think the thing is, though, having said that, there's a story to be told for every single person, because everyone has their own challenges in their day-to-day life. I think there's a huge amount of sacrifice going in. And I think, I'm glad to be able to have this opportunity to get that across a little bit, because actually the support that we've been given, and also we're going to touch on that a little bit later, from the community, we want people to know that it counts for something. There's a reason behind it. There, as well as the centre, we're trying to do what we can to make sure that everybody's support counts. And there's others that I can tell you. Obviously the other guys in the group that have huge sacrifices they're making. There's individuals.
Yeah.
And I'm taking no liability for this, by the way, because I know this is going to be broadcast. Individuals who are carrying injuries, which you would not even consider something, you would even consider, a typical hike, up Barton Hills, but these guys, just not taking no for an answer, are coming out to support us, the cause.
They're coming out to support the cause, and they need to take it additionally pole.
Yes.
Extra pole.
That's
Extra
right.
pole,
That's right.
And because the key thing is also all of the spirit fantastic, objective fantastic, but we need to be cautious.
Have to stay safe.
Health
Yeah.
and safety is an utmost priority for everyone.
And let's be real. There is real risk associated with this,
Yeah, absolutely.
and again, disclaimer, make sure your mom doesn't see this,
Yeah,
or
my
anybody's,
mum.
but
Yeah.
there is real risk associated with
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
People die on this mountain. It's not a joke, and we're hoping that inshallah all of us stay safe, and we're all preparing the best we can to make sure that we stay safe, and we're all then able to complete the mission, which is get to the summit. But
I was hoping actually to share this podcast with my mum. No chance now.
Nah.
Say, Mum, look, I'm doing a good thing here, Mum. I promise. Look,
we'll
Not
do.
now.
We'll do. We'll
Just
get.
edit that
We'll get Tarek to do. The diplomatic translation.
the edits.
Yeah.
No, this is the
Eh?
thing. My mum's fluent, right? So she speaks English
Oh,
like fine,
no.
so she understands
Uh-oh.
everything. And when you start editing, she'll clock it. So it's not
Yeah.
going to work. So we'll pretend this didn't happen, lads. This did not happen.
I don't
anyway.
think there's much more that can be said to you.
Yeah, to be honest.
To be
Well,
honest, so
there is
let it
another
go.
point which I'm sure most of us have probably been keeping close to our chest. But one of the other things I want to get across actually, I think it's important for people to know, just to make sure everything's transparent. There's obviously a cost element to this as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Can I touch on this?
yeah, go
'Cause
ahead.
I've been asked a few times about this, because I've been alhamdulillah, pushing this for the last few weeks, and
That's
I've
right.
tried to be on every single platform possible to try and get the Fobe and Fobe out there and the Disability Centre. But one really important thing to understand, guys, for those listening and watching this podcast, we're all paying for our own tickets. It's all costing us. We're all paying for our own tickets. We're buying our own materials, jackets and equipment and blah blah blah. I'm not buying that Rob jacket though. Toba.
Yeah, so I mean, some of the price tags.
Some of the price tags are-
I'd like it. Don't get me
I'd
wrong.
really like it.
And if you know, Afasab's ever, you know, deciding that he's done with his, you know, mountaineering, gets please, bro.
I'll have that Rab jacket. Rab or Rob? What is it? Rub. Yeah. When I saw that, I was thinking rub. but yeah, we're paying for this. The money is coming from our own pockets. You know, we're paying for it. This is our, you know, and it's not cheap.
No,
You know,
definitely
on
not.
average, what's it costing each of us?
So each individual is forking out in excess of, you know, 1,400-1,500 pound in excess of, you know, obviously like the office staff is going to be a
bit more
little
than
bit
that.
more because, you know, mashallah.
Get
But,
a few of them more contracts.
but
Few more
the thing
contracts
is,
in, eh?
I think the key thing to mention is things like you said. Let's you know, be clear about it. The flights, the visas, the insurance, you know, the medical side of it.
Yeah.
You know, we've had to spend, you know, for mashallah just recently as well, you know, had his jabs and took him out for 2 days.
Yeah.
So that's sacrifice as well. He was out for the whole weekend because the jabs took him out, you know, and there's all of that associated with, and it's costing in excess of 1,400 to 1,500 pound per person out of their own pockets. And the event sponsors, you know, have very kindly helped along with our registration fees. Remember, every single person has pulled 400 pound out of their own pocket to hand to folk to help with the event costs. And we put that together and we help cover the cost of the event so that every single penny that's on each one of our pages goes towards the
Of
centre.
course.
And I think that's, you know, that's I think that's the main thing to get across. You know, like Z mashallah, this week you passed 5k.
Yeah.
So every penny of that is going to count towards where it needs to, which is to the centre, inshallah. And that's something I
The
think we
support's
just
been amazing for people
Awesome.
that I've sort of bumped into after years, or people that I haven't spoken to quite regularly and getting messages because they've seen it on a WhatsApp status or someone's shared it with them.
Yeah.
And support's been incredible, absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, I've with you especially because you're not a born and bred Lutonian.
I'm not Lithuanian, bro.
You're not born and bred.
I'm an alien in
Adopted.
So
Oh,
how
come
long
on,
have you,
man.
how long have you been here, by the way?
Luton town.
How many years have you been? I've not asked.
probably about 10 years now.
Oh, so you are now one. You does Salyard. Come on. You pretty much are, innit? You've got your own show on the station, Inspire
Yeah,
FM.
Yeah, don't let the lads from Leeds hear you say that. I'm
So,
supposed to get a hard time next time
like
or
with
something.
yours, I remember, like, you know, I can imagine it must have been for you to get to. You're nearly at 5k, aren't you? Or are you at 5k?
No, I should be at 5k.
Inshallah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Inshallah. So
inshallah.
you know, for us to get where we are from local community is just incredible. It's unheard of.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I've seen a few campaigns locally. I mean, I'm sure you have as well, Yasser. But
Yeah.
for us to be where we are, and the continued support, not just, you know, that's it. I mean,
It's really blown up, you know, in the last few weeks, and I think
and it's because it's the cause. The
That's
people,
right.
this cause resonates with so many people, and I
100%.
love that. I love that.
that kind of brings us on nicely, I suppose, to the next point, you know, that we wanted to discuss is, which is the cause and the centre. And you know, the fact that there's that level. I mean, I've, alhamdulillah, you know, being involved with FOFA as long as I have in the role that I have, you know, I've always felt that and I've always known that. And what I suppose gave me the confidence to say, okay, as an organisation, you know, where we sit right now, you know, we're ready to do something like this, because you have to know that you've got that back. You can't take a step like this without, you know, anticipating that the support's going to be there, because otherwise you're just setting yourself for a fail. But, you know, I've always felt that, alhamdulillah, it's been amazing. And but even then, having said that, trust me, even I was thinking, wow. I remember having a conversation with Billy and Jimmy a few months ago before we booked our tickets, because, you know, this has been something on the agenda since we did the National Three Peaks back in 2019. The idea was in 2020,
What,
Kilimanjaro, but obviously with
This was-
COVID lockdown,
yeah.
it was that was it.
It was National Three Peaks.
I didn't know that, bro.
Yeah, it was
Shall I tell
National-
you something?
Thank God it got delayed. Man,
Yeah.
Because I missed National Three Peaks. I didn't know about Fobe. I didn't know about you guys.
Yeah.
So, you know, we just met.
Alhamdulillah, it's come at the perfect time. You know, we've got the keys to the centre,
It was
30th anniversary.
It was National Three Peaks, Yorkshire
Mashallah.
Three Peaks, and then Killy, inshallah.
Yeah.
That was the
But
plan.
you know what happened? Believe it or not, check this out. I sat down with one of the tour operators that I was considering, one of the brothers that we use regularly for our national sort of campaigns, and went and spoke to him late Feb. And at that point, I had conversations with some management companies in terms of, you know, the airfares, you know, managing all of that side of it. And I spoke to him, and we were ready to try and, you know, thrash out an agreement. Literally a few days after that meeting is when all of this sort of, these murmurs around, potential restrictions and whatnot, blah, blah. And obviously then, I think it was 18th March, it's sort of etched into my brain because obviously we had to take action in terms of Fobe and our centre and stuff. But
this is 2020.
yeah, 18th March 2020
Yeah.
was lockdown. So, we were ready to put sort of, plans in place at that point of, setting dates. And in September, we were thinking of going at that point. September to October is another season to go. But, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dictated that, look, actually, that's not going to be the right time for us. Fast forward 2.5 years or more. And the centre, the keys were handed to me back in September. That's when we booked our tickets as well, funnily enough, because obviously we had discussion before that. And before you know it, boom, this thing's just, been on a roll. And so like I said, I've been blown away how, things have all come together.
Bro, you had to wait for the centre, and you had to wait for me to come on the
That's
centre.
right.
course, man.
The main point. I was going to get right onto that.
We were going to get to the office.
That's it. That's right. Yeah.
Just killed it, man. We were coming to that. We were coming to that.
It wouldn't have happened had it
You
not
can't
been.
go on a trip like this without offers
That's
to
right.
kind of like make it legit. innit?
That's right.
To keep the parents happy.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think it's working anywhere.
But my mum's after you, bro.
Exactly.
My mum is after you.
It's not gonna
Get off, is it?
Exactly. I'm in trouble, bro.
But again, going back to the centre, guys, look, obviously I know what my motivations are. I've been involved for that long. We've had discussions around this centre. I think Billy's alluded to it in a couple of the conversations he's had, the appearances he's had on the show and whatnot, that we had a conversation about 10 years ago, literally 10 years ago, where we, had that concept, the vision for the Fobe'S Centre that we spoke about, and we started putting in place, strategic aims and what we want to do and how we want to get there. And we started the ball rolling. And one of the reasons it's actually taken so long is because trying to find the right place, there was plenty of places, and I actually got very close a few years ago to put pen to paper, almost to sign an agreement to take somewhere, which, looking at it now, wouldn't have been the right move for us. And obviously, again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intervened at that point, and it was, decided that we weren't going to go for that option.
Yeah.
And there's been plenty of other things that we could have looked at, but they just wouldn't have been right, and not like this place. And so, it's come together now. We're ready to go. What does it mean to you? So what does the cause mean?
I remember Yasser when you showed me the centre. He goes, listen, bro, I've got something to show you. So he picks me. I turned up at his house, right? And he goes, turned the car around. Literally drove 30 seconds up the road. I don't know, bro. Convenient.
That's not why it's right, by the way. Yeah, that's no bearing.
Incredible, isn't it?
And no bearing.
And
No
honestly,
bearing
when
on
I
that,
walked,
so.
obviously with my own experience, which I'll come on to, but when I walked into that building, bro, I was like in complete awe. I was like, oh my God, I'm so excited. Do you remember I started mapping it out with you? Do you remember?
Yeah.
I couldn't leave. I was like, this got to be here. This is going to be the sensory room here. We can have a hydro pool, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, wow, bro, this is amazing. Because the building, the way it's structured, is...
It's got all that potential.
It's got all the potential, It's like a developer, finding a I don't know, a plot of land and think, oh man, I could put 40 flats here. Amazing. Like, complete eureka moment. Such an amazing building.
It was really amazing. When I because obviously it's a council-owned building, and we had to tender for it, and obviously we had visits and whatnot that we were actually pitching against other organisations and some relatively large ones, and we went in to visit, and I took Yasmin down, who's the founder of the charity. Obviously you guys would have heard of her. She literally she sat down. Obviously she had a look around. She sat down in a chair. And she literally started crying, bro. It was like, tears rolling down her face, because that's, this is how much it means, and the centre itself, she could see all of the potential that it had in terms of what it served, for our community. So, just grateful, awesome that it's come together. But Afis Saab, obviously, as somebody, like you said, you didn't know about Fobe however many years ago. Somebody's kind of come into the fold, if you like. What does it mean for you?
It's really interesting, isn't it? Because I'm very new to the journey. When I hear Bilal's story and everyone else, Zishan or Zafran and the other guys, it's like these guys have known it forever. I think, where have I been, man?
It feels like that, innit?
I've never heard of Fobe before, right? And, as I said, I've been in Luton for almost 10 years. And so it's only through these guys that I heard about it, and, through Yorkshire Peaks. And I think Raheem introduced me to it, right?
Okay, yes.
And then... When I first heard of the concept, of course, looking after, our children with disabilities, I think it's the point Bilal mentions. It just actually it's such a niche, and there's such a dire need, and it's something that you can actually relate to, that immediately I thought, this is it, right? So if there's something that I want to do for, put efforts towards, or, I get involved with some of the other charities ask me to, Crisis Aid, and some of the other charities we do, at the half marathon in October I did for Crisis Aid, and Ummah Welfare Trust, the charities where there's 100%, donations go to the end cause, I'm up for it, generally speaking, right? But here was a local charity for our children with those disabilities, so it just wins your heart and mind, and instantly, to be honest with you, and that's it. I was converted.
Do you know, when you meet these children, officer, it just completely, like, you just softens you, completely softens you, because
it's very humbling, isn't it?
It's so humbling, because they don't know how to lie, they don't know how to play politics.
It's not a false a picture that
you're
seeing.
They're not going to a room and they're not judging people. What watches you wearing? What saris, but whatever, right? There's no judging, right? It's straight, like they're at 100%. So whatever they're feeling and saying and thinking, you're seeing it for what it is, and it completely softens you. So when you and that for me is like, I could never bring my brother back, right? But that memory's always with me. It's been 24 odd years, and every day I think about him, and that don't go, and it's really hard. You can never get over those experiences.
Yeah,
but
no way.
For me, whenever I see a disabled child or I'm naturally attracted to them. Like, I just want to sit with them and be in their company and play with them and talk to them and interact with them.
Absolutely.
Because it completely.
It's like Allah's put a special type of love in those people.
Yeah.
Wallahi, but Allah, I'm not lying. I'm not just making it up. Whenever you see them, your heart is immediately melts towards them, and you immediately feel that love towards them. And then the other point that you were mentioning earlier was, which family is there that hasn't got someone, that Allah Subhanahu wa Taala decreed upon them, some kind of
that's right.
And then you see
It's
that,
very
you
common,
experience that. Is it become? It's very common,
common,
or it's becoming very common, or maybe it was always there, but just not brought to the forefront because of the taboos that we have in our community and stigmas that we have in our societies, right? So now it's becoming more prominent. We're crossing it a lot more, and now alhamdulillah, we've got an opportunity to do something about it. I think that's a very
and the beautiful thing is in our community. So it gives everyone a chance. Everyone who's listening to our chat now and watching us and seeing our journey, you all get an opportunity to be part of this. So you can see these kids, you can interact. You can, if you've got and I think this is important as well, Yasser, is you have families who are still hesitant. They're really struggling. They're really, really struggling with their child or sibling or whatever it may be. But they can't. They're also struggling to be open about it. Say, look, we've got a problem. We need help. And I'm really hoping for those people, you've got an opportunity now, confidential. You can come, speak to the centre, speak to the staff there, and we can support you. And all of a sudden you'll feel that actually I'm welcome here, and this is part of my furniture. This is part of my community, part of us, our week, part of our day.
And I think
I think that's massive. Massive.
The thing is to achieve that. To achieve that willingness, if you like, from families to be able to come forward and say that I need that support. The right type of support and the right mediums, the right places, if you like, the right faces, the right approaches need to be in place. And I think that's the key thing behind the centre. I've experienced over the years, a lot of families who have hesitation, but some of them are, the genuine apprehensions. It isn't actually always just down to the fact that, there's a stigma as such, because alhamdulillah, over the years, especially the guys, early years of Fobe, we'll give a shout out to the guys, that's obviously made this all happen. We're doing what we're doing now, but it was on the on the shoulders of these guys. They really helped change mindsets. Yasmin in particular. In the early years, I remember some of the stories she's telling me about going knocking on people's doors where she's just heard through a family member or a friend that there may be a disabled child in that, and she was going and knocking on doors, not taking no for an answer, and saying, "Listen, we're trying to put something together. Why don't you let your child come out and whatnot?" And she's done a lot to get people, I suppose, over the years over that kind of thing. I don't think that's as much of an issue nowadays from my experience. But what does happen is people are hesitant because they don't feel the right type of support is in place because of their child's needs, because of their family's needs, their cultural or religious needs. And these are genuine concerns. You know, these are things that those individuals, essentially shouldn't have as barriers for them to access support.
But do you know what I mean? As parents, they have a right to have those concerns, right?
Exactly.
And it's our duty as I would call us ambassadors, respectfully. I'd call us ambassadors for Fobe, but it's our duty to address them.
We've got if we don't put something. This is what I say to a lot of the people that get involved with the organisation or with any sort of fundraising or anything we do. If we don't do it, who's going to do it?
Yeah.
And that's a real question because again, I've been involved for that many years in the area, if you like, and having then my own experience personally with my daughter and now my son. In Luton in particular, it is difficult. There is a lot of barriers in terms of trying to access support. It doesn't matter how willing you are. Sometimes there's either nothing out there, or it's so hard to access, or it's just not enough, even if you can access it. So, trying to address those things, there's only so far, you'll get by trying to go and beat down the door of the council, for example, or trying to, to go to statutory services, schools, hospitals, whatever it might be, specialist services. And the beautiful thing about this is like you mentioned earlier, this is us doing it, us as a community. And I don't mean us, the 4 guys at the table, the 12 guys going. It's the whole community getting behind this cause and trying to make it happen. And I think that's. I hope I pray that that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen to kind of get behind it, because we're all getting together. There's that sincere intention there.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, I was going to say it's the beginning of the journey, but it's not quite beginning. I mean, the beginning of the journey was 30 years ago, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So, but it's a key milestone in that journey.
100%.
Of course it is.
And it's not as if all those facilities are going to suddenly be switched on tomorrow.
Of course,
right?
yeah.
It's going to take time for
That's
us to, kind of get operational, get match ready,
A lot of hard work.
and start putting a lot of those facilities and services in place, and slowly, gradually start building that portfolio up to include other services, etc., etc.
You know how to put furniture together.
I do.
I know how to use a paintbrush. We'll get it done, inshallah.
That's right.
And that's the amazing thing, right? It's the community coming together, whether it's people that have donated to everyone's pages or directly to Fobe, the amazing people that take their time out to come help support kids and stuff, and even people just sharing the link or talking about it. Everyone's doing their bit, and
That's right.
it's not just for today. It's not going to be there tomorrow. It's going to be there for a very, very long time.
Inshallah.
And you're supporting the blessings that these people have in their homes, but also it's massive for the parents and carers. Just having that 1 hour to sit down and not have to sort of really worry. It's always going to be in the back of your mind. As a parent, every child is always in the back of your mind. But just to have that 1 hour, just to sit down and know that they are getting looked after, they're in a safe environment, in a safe space, mentally, that's amazing for the parents. That's huge.
I said in the morning on the radio, I said something very similar. I'll never forget it. I spoke to a mother years ago. This was when I was volunteering, like years and years ago. At Foxtel, I think it was, right? Foxtel.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Time back, yeah.
And I'll never forget it. And this mother goes, even if I had 1 hour a week, just 1 hour a week to myself, I'd be happy.
Seriously.
Can you imagine that? And she was, this woman was the toughest woman I think I've ever met, right? She was just strong as anything, like emotionally, and she was just on another level. And I was like, back then I probably didn't realize the
significance
of what she said.
Yeah.
But now, being a parent and being a young man that I am and married for all these years, the significance of what she said was huge.
No, but you get it though, innit? Now, like you said, that's good that you mentioned that, because obviously, alhamdulillah, mashallah, Allahumma barak, your children are able. You don't have the concerns, I suppose, that a child with a disability would have, but they still have. Everyone has their own challenges, and you still have the need to have some time away.
You have
you're not
absolutely.
with your kids at 24/7 and having to concern yourself, I suppose, if you like, with them. Of course, they're always there, in the back of your mind. It's not like, you forget completely, but, you go to work and you can sort of rest easy knowing that, okay, look, you know what, this is in place and, everything's going to be okay. But for our families, the fact of the matter is they don't have that ease. And what this gives is that, like you said, if even it's just an hour, couple of hours, our weekday after school clubs only run for a couple of hours. They get 3 hours essentially of support because we pick them up from home, transport's provided. And if it wasn't for the fact, I can guarantee you this because I know, 'cause I've spoken to the families and we've had conversations around, when our family workers go and do the visits and they go and speak to the families around some of the concerns that some of the families hear. And if it wasn't for the fact that we're able to provide a service which they feel meets those needs, the stuff that we talked about, in terms of the child's needs in particular, their disabilities and how we can support them, and then, any other needs the family might have, whether it's timing, whether it's the transport, whether it's language barriers, or then the cultural sensitivities, or just the approach that we have, these families just wouldn't be able to access the support. And so the things we take for granted a lot of the time with typically able children, which is, okay, you know what, go play in your room for an hour, I've got some chores to do, I've got this to do, I've got that to do. It just, that just doesn't happen when you've got a child with a disability. So something as simple as, I think you mentioned this earlier, something as simple as, chores, doing the shopping. There is families that literally, they use that time, because we provide that time on a regular basis every single week. It's there for them. They know they can rely on it and depend on it. But okay, you know what, when they go to Fobe, that's when we want to be able to go to the shopping. Or, some of the stuff that's more impactful when you think about it, this is really hard, I suppose, sometimes for me to talk about, because, it's something that I've kind of been mulling over recently, but, giving time to your siblings, I've got 2 kids now, both with disabilities, and I do find it hard, we've got a 3-year-old, so sometimes, naturally your focus is almost kind of, surrounding him, if you like, because of, him being young sort of thing and spending time with him. I think sometimes I'm not able to do what I used to do with my daughter now. But for a lot of our families, when that situation occurs, because they have an able child and they may have a disabled child, or multiple children that have are able, or multiple children that have disabilities, your focus naturally shifts towards the ones that require the care, and those kids then almost they're in a situation where they can't get the attention as much just because of the circumstances, not because you don't want to give it to them. And that time, so often, again speaking to family, they talk about, I'm able to spend time with the other kids. Which is, it's huge, man. It's huge. It makes a massive, massive difference. And I suppose,
shout out to the families, man.
Yeah, man. Trust me. Yeah.
Massive shout out to the families and siblings, man. We feel it. We're our duas are with you, and yeah, man.
And these guys, this is it. This is what it's all about.
Smiles.
That's why we're doing this.
Inshallah.
Inshallah, to try and make a difference. Ultimately, it's for us, isn't it? Because let's be honest, when we're talking about these families, and we're talking especially about these children, these children that have the complexity of need that we're talking about, a lot of them, as far as our understanding allows us to to consider their needs, they have no accountability in terms of we assume and we hope their akhirah is guaranteed for them. They're individuals of Jannah, inshallah. So if we're able to associate ourselves now with them, be a part of anything that's going to be, positive for them in this life, can you imagine, them being connected to them or them remembering us in the Akhirah?
Wow.
That's
powerful.
it's massive. It's massive. So
Powerful note.
very, very.
I've just thought about something, right? And what about the volunteers, man?
Yeah, don't get me started, man. That's another emotional one, man. You got
Let's talk about the
you
volunteers,
got to remember,
man.
Fobe. Obviously, Fobe is so dependent on our voluntary contribution. Now, again, us guys all being volunteers, because we're voluntarily going and doing this Kilimanjaro thing, and our aim is to try and raise the funds for the centre. But while all that's happening, and obviously the focus is on that at the moment, there's a lot of buzz around that. Something that's important to remember is we run services 6 days a week, every single week, including Saturdays and Sundays. 8 services over the week, over 75 families supported every single week. And, our guys, the grassroots, delivering those services, supporting those children, supporting those families, driving the buses, doing everything that we require to make sure that the families and the children get the support. They've still been cracking on. And none of that can happen without, the voluntary contribution that everyone makes. We've got, I think I alluded to it a little bit on the night trek we did, but we've got an ethos in the charity that everybody, regardless of its management, someone doing administration, family workers, the carers that work with the children, every single person has a voluntary contribution they must make, on a weekly basis. We've got like a commitment to it. So that ethos runs to that, and we would not be able to do what we do without the volunteers. You just can't. You literally could take our services and probably chop them into half, if not less.
How many volunteers are there in total, yes?
So at the moment, currently, we have around 50 to 60 individuals, per week across our different services volunteering.
50?
Yeah. Alhamdulillah. Amazing support out there.
That's an amazing operation.
Wow.
Yeah. And, you've got to remember as well, it's every single week that these guys turn up.
When I was volunteering, there was probably about 20 hours, max.
Yeah.
Absolute max. But I mean, it was 2
Yeah.
or 3 sessions back then, but 60.
Yeah.
And full-time staff?
So this is the amazing thing, innit? The only person, I suppose, that operates full-time is myself. And everybody else, operates on a part-time basis because we run such a lean operation. The put it this way, if you put a numerical value to the voluntary contribution or the in-kind contribution, it cost us easily 3 times as much as it actually does.
Wow.
That's how we operate, basically, and that's where we are. So, yeah, I mean, this is something that I suppose is important for people to know. Again, the transparency and
all the
whatnot.
volunteers, man.
I mean, massive. They make a huge impact, and we're doing this again. I suppose that's one of our motivations. Try and support these guys, man. They're so excited about it as well, man. Behind us, the amount of encouragement I'm getting from the team, the guys that obviously that we're in our services and running the clubs and whatnot. It's massive, and I feel a bit guilty because normally I'm a little bit more in touch with what goes on operationally, day to day. But I've not been able to do that more recently because the focus has been so much obviously on this side, and amazing, man. But guys, just wrapping it up, what is your response to the community support? So I mean, just starting with you, Officer, you obviously, I remember a few weeks ago when we did the sponsor run, we're desperate for the community to get behind you. It's like, what's happening here? You know what I mean? And
Scan my QR code.
But now,
bro.
mashallah, man, it's been amazing, man. Literally rocketed.
So I've reached my target of 5,000.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Right. So and alhamdulillah, I mean, I really want to thank all the community out there. Not only Luton. I mean, there's another thing that we need to add, right? That this is not a Luton campaign.
That's right.
Right. Even though the services are here in Luton, right? Most of my donations have come from Leeds,
West Yorkshire, bro.
Bradford.
West Yorkshire's killing it.
Bradford, family, extended family.
We're gonna have a satellite centre.
And,
in those postcodes,
and some of the other northern territories, right? So alhamdulillah, whoever's heard about it, they've put this support behind it, and local Lutonians, they've subhanallah, we gotta give a big shout out and jazakallah khair to all of them. It's been massive. The support and love has been massive, mashallah.
100%.
Likewise, humbling. If I could put in one word, humbling. Honestly, it's not easy. The sort of the times that we're in at the minute and stuff, with the cost of living crisis and all sorts, and people losing their jobs over COVID and stuff. But everyone's sort of done their bit, and everyone keeps doing their bit. I was quite fortunate. I got quite a good response early on, and it sort of kept up every week.
Yeah, you nabbed all the good ones, right?
Yeah, so it kept up all the week. And I think I'm over I'm on like 5,200 at the minute, and the response has been from individuals, locals, people from out of town, friends from out of town, and just local shops and businesses that I visit like on a weekly basis. Just talking to them, and you come home and you see that they've donated, and you think, wow. I touched on getting hijama done recently, right? And I was talking to the brother about what I'm going to do and stuff, and he sort of said, look, this is the cost of what you've done. Yeah, cool, charged it. And then I had a look at my page in the evening, and what he charged me, he donated towards the page.
Yeah, what a guy.
Amazing, man. I'll accept it.
So it's been humbling, honestly, that thank you so much for everyone. And all those anonymous people also.
Yeah. Shout out to anonymous.
Yeah, man.
Shout out to
Anonymous, you guys.
Anonymous is in the lead by far.
By far. But you know what? And I've got to say about Anonymous. Yeah. One thing I've got to say, and my missus told me off about this, right? Because I get really frustrated. I'm like, I personally just want to thank you, innit? Like, I understand why you've done Anonymous. I completely get it. Yeah. But I was like, just please, Anonymous, can you just let me thank you, please?
Yeah,
It's so frustrating.
Yeah,
Well, alhamdulillah, I've had so many.
there's two things in it. One is that people want to remain anonymous, so that the right hand gives and the left hand doesn't know
That's
that,
right.
Which is
100%.
fantastic. But
SubhanAllah.
in this kind of,
You want to
campaign,
thank them, don't you?
Yeah.
not only that, but then it's better that people know who's giving,
Yeah.
and it encourages others to give, and it actually generates a competitiveness and an atmosphere of good, right?
Yeah.
And competing in the goodness, right? And I know sometimes we're critical of other organizations when they do something similar. We say, oh, for God's sake, why are you doing that? But there's another thing. My brother donated, and I said, look, you haven't, because I haven't seen your name on there. He goes, oh, I couldn't be bothered putting my name there.
So he's just lazy.
Yeah, so he couldn't be bothered putting his name there. And I said, well, sorry, that's not good enough for me, because it has to have your name, otherwise I don't consider that.
Oh, is it? In again, mate.
Double donation.
No, alhamdulillah. You know, on that point, I suppose it's a nice point to wrap up. But just again, mention, you know, major thanks to the guys who are keeping the services running while, you know,
Yeah.
while we're able to focus on this, inshallah.
Massively.
Gives us the platform to do it. You know, we can't just shut everything down while we go. Like you guys, a lot of you guys are. Me personally, again, just want to thank everybody who supported, and, you know, my family in particular. And I think, you know, it wouldn't be right of me if I didn't give a shout out to my missus in particular, because I've actually never been away for this length of time from my kids since they were born, because of the fact, you know, obviously their needs, etc. And then we've only ever really been able to be in a position where, when we've done some of these other challenges, but they were only really a couple of days away, that I've actually gone away and not been around. So, you know, big shout out to her and all of the families, you know, that are allowing, you know, your guys, your husbands, your sons, your brothers to come along and, you know, do this with us, because you guys, inshallah, all gonna have a share in this reward. You know, you're all just as important to this cause. And a big shout out to, like I said, our volunteers, staff members, keeping everything going, and our sponsors, you know, that helped sponsor this event. Again, made it happen. Just end on that, I suppose. You know, thanks to everybody.
Thank you so much. I mean, like
Jazakumullah
you
khair.
said, mate, thank you. Again, massive shout out to my missus as well. I hope she listens. But huge shout out to her. Huge shout out to all the volunteers, as you said.
That's right.
Our sponsors and everyone. Inspire FM.
Yep.
Giving us a huge platform.
You can't forget them.
I can't Inspire.
Sitting in my home. Can't bother to say thanks.
Yeah.
But,
So Inspire FM, all the sponsors, and I also want to give a shout out to Auntie Liz.
yeah.
You know,
the inspiration behind
the
all of this.
inspiration
innit?
behind all of this,
Yeah.
and a shout out to you guys, man. My inspiration, keeping me motivated, keeping me light, getting me on this, introducing me to the Stairmaster officer.
Wait, the Stairmaster
It was
is.
those videos you were sending
Wow.
earlier on. Yeah,
Yeah.
those videos of you, Basina and Najoria.
What's Hafiz Saab doing? Because his metabolic age is in early 20s right now,
Yeah.
so we need to follow what he's
Tell
doing.
the truth, officer. Tell the truth. Did you throw your water bottle over yourself?
my metabolic, what's it called? Metabolic age. Mine must be about 62.
Impossible.
Alhamdulillah.
MashaAllah. Okay, brothers, Jazakallah. Thank you very much for taking the time. Jazakallah to everybody. May Allah accept it from everybody. May Allah keep everyone safe. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability to make this center successful.
Ameen.
Ameen. Guys, signing off. Jazakallah.
Ameen.